Consider the iconic image of Lady Justice. To begin with, she is holding a set of scales. The scales symbolize the careful balancing of evidence, arguments, and opposing sides in a dispute to determine truth. Lady Justice is also brandishing a sword. This represents the authority, power, and finality of the law, as well as the ability to punish. And finally, there's the blindfold. The blindfold represents impartiality and objectivity, indicating that justice is administered without fear, favor, or bias regarding wealth, power, or status. Allow me to repeat that last sentence. Justice is administered without fear, favor, or bias regarding wealth, power, or status. I make mention of the iconic Lady Justice and all that she represents, or is supposed to represent, regarding a staggering court decision that was rendered in Toronto recently. It is a decision that goes against everything the justice system should embrace when it comes to fairness and impartiality. Here's the skinny according to a story published in the National Post, headlined, quote, "Judge grants leniency for Toronto crack dealer because of his 9 children and his race," end quote. Here's the lead paragraph, quote, "A Toronto crack cocaine dealer caught back in business 3 times over the course of 10 months managed to convince a judge that he deserves some leniency because putting him behind bars would mean hardship for his 9 children, but not because he's addicted to the drugs he was caught peddling. Lloyd Williams pleaded guilty in Ontario's Court of Justice to 3 counts of possession of cocaine for the purpose of trafficking in what Justice Andre Chamberlain described as the deeply troubled neighborhood surrounding the intersection at Dundas and Sherbourne Streets for arrests on March 3rd, 2024, October 25, 2024, and January 4th, 2025. Williams, who was released after each arrest, twice on bail and a 3rd time on the promise he wear a GPS tracking device, also pleaded guilty to 1 count of possession of proceeds of crime over $5,000 and 2 counts for under that amount and failing to comply with a release order on February 15th, 2025. The Crown recommended a 6.5-year prison sentence. Williams' lawyer argued for 2 years less a day in jail, end quote. So folks, to recap, here's what we know about the illustrious Mr. Williams. He has been nabbed numerous times peddling crack cocaine. He has breached his bail conditions. He has 9 kids from multiple mothers. The youngest child is just 10 months old, one is 22 months old, and another is 3. Williams also has 9-year-old twins, 2 10-year-olds, and a 16-year-old. It should be noted that one of his 9-year-olds is on the autism spectrum. You know, that's a lot of dependence. That's a lot of responsibility. So thank God Williams has a stable and high-paying career as a, drug-dealing scumbag. Anyway, as the saying goes, what's the use of having kids if you can't exploit them? Because here's what Judge Andre Chamberlain stated in his decision, quote, "Williams states that he provides support as a father to his children and that any lengthy absence would have a significant impact on their health and well-being," end quote. Yep, that's right. The genetic jackhammer that is Lloyd Williams is truly Father of the Year material. But seriously, how are these poor children benefiting from being raised by a drug dealer? And come on, 9 kids, multiple mothers? Seriously? This is the height of irresponsibility, and it's downright selfish. Oh, but wait, there's more. Williams identifies as being both Black and Mi'kmaq. So what does that have to do with the price of tea in China, you ask? race and skin color should be irrelevant in a court of law, right? Well, not in 2026, not in Canada, apparently, not when a woke judge is on the bench. At this point, the story gets a tad surreal. You see, Williams was unable to actually prove that he is a Mi'kmaq native. Oh, but never mind. He gave it the good old college try, and indeed, Judge Chamberlain said he was, quote, satisfied Williams has established a connection to Indigenous ancestry, end quote. Forgive me, folks, because I remain in a state of profound confusion right now. Williams could not, I repeat, he could not prove he was Indigenous. Yet the judge seems to be saying that since Williams identifies as being Indigenous, well then, who are we to say otherwise? Holy Elizabeth Warren, Batman. Then again, society is infested with men, their penises still attached, claiming to be chicks. And to call BS on that scam is tantamount to committing a hate crime in Canada these days. Predictably, Judge Chamberlain delivered a sanctimonious sermon for everyone in the courtroom to hear. Here goes, quote, "It is not unusual for Indigenous people who have struggled under the yoke of colonialism in this country and its intergenerational impact to have lost connections to their roots and community. Further, markers of the effects of intergenerational trauma, including poverty, familial addiction, struggles with education and mental health, and overrepresentation within the criminal justice and child welfare system are often present when Indigenous identity is confirmed." Again with the colonialism. And sorry to be such a nitpicker here, folks, but I want to remind everyone, including Judge Chamberlain himself, that Williams could not confirm that he was Indigenous. But again, never mind. Still, when did courtrooms turn into classrooms teaching revisionist history? I thought a court of law was all about evidence and facts. Apparently not these days. It's about how you feel, I guess. Indeed, based on the Lloyd Williams case, if you're a black crack dealer with 9 kids, all you have to say is, "I'm a Mi'kmaq, pinky swear," and that's good enough. Well, at least it's good enough for Judge Chamberlain, because Chamberlain also had this to say, quote, "Williams deserves consideration for the reduced moral blameworthiness associated with these challenges," end quote. Again, I'm somewhat unclear what the judge is saying here regarding those challenges. Is Williams challenged because he is black? Is he challenged because he is Indigenous? Well, maybe. Is he challenged because he has a fast-paced and high-stress career as a crack cocaine dealer? Or maybe his challenge results in juggling the schedules of all those 9 kids he has, you know, getting them all to soccer and hockey practice and whatnot. Forget about a minivan. I hope Williams has access to a minibus, assuming that the guy has a driver's license, that is. The lawyer for Williams argued, quote, "There are 2 legal considerations that should mitigate his sentence, bringing it down to an upper reformatory range, namely the impact and harm a lengthy prison sentence will have on his family, and secondly, that Mr. Williams is addicted to the very drugs he sells, and as an addict trafficker, he is entitled to significant mitigation," end quote. Folks, I'm not making this up. Are we living in the bizarro Superman world in which irresponsibility and criminality are rewarded, not condemned? And by all accounts, the attorney for Mr. Williams delivered this statement with a straight face. Consider that Williams is not only a drug dealer, but a drug addict too. Yeah, that's exactly the sort of father I want to see heading up a household with 9 young children. In any event, Chamberlain sentenced Williams, who shockers, already has a long criminal history, to just 4.5 years in prison, which means by my calculation, he'll be out of the joint in about 2 years. Oh, I would be negligent if I did not report that in 2021 and in 2024, part of that long criminal record entailed Williams being convicted of serious domestic assault charges, including assault by choking. Forgive me for being a tad insensitive here, but can we cut to the chase? Which is to say, why wasn't this reprobate not occupying a prison cell going back to the odious crime he committed in 2021 or in 2024? Yet the judge recognized, quote, that his further incarceration will have a negative impact on Williams' family, end quote. I have a headache right now, or is my brain melting? Given that Williams has this nasty little habit of committing physical domestic assault, including, choking, I would argue that Williams being separated from his several spouses and several children would be a very positive thing indeed, but no. In any event, what have we learned here regarding the odious case of Lloyd Williams? Well, I think it is this. Should one ever end up in a criminal court, you might just want to play the race card, especially since these days you apparently do not have to actually prove that you are racialized. Also, claim that you're addicted to illegal substances. And make sure you have multiple dependents, or at least, say you do. And presto, if you have someone like Chamberlain on the bench, you will most likely get a reduced sentence. By the way, the Williams case is by no means a one-off. The unholy trinity of diversity, equity, and inclusion has been embraced in other court decisions of late. Here's a headline from December 9th, 2025. Quote, Inuit man gets reduced sentence for attempted murder due to his Indigenous status and mental illness, end quote. And here's another whopper headline from January 3rd, 2025. Quote, prison sentence cut in half for man who identifies as Métis, end quote. And again, folks, the devil is in the details, isn't it? The sentence reduction was due to a man identifying as Métis, which means he might not actually be Métis. By the way, I'm currently identifying as Miss America. Where's my bouquet? But seriously, folks, in the final analysis, isn't giving racialized offenders, i.e. non-white people, a get-out-of-jail-free card inherently racist? Which is to say, the underlying mindset seems to be because you are black or brown or indigenous or et cetera, then society can't possibly hold you to the same standard as Caucasians. I believe this is what's called the racism of low expectations.